Dr. Vanita Arora, Director and Head, Cardiac Electrophysiology Lab and Arrhythmia Services, Max Hospitals, Delhi. Dr. Vanita Arora is the first female cardiac electrophysiologist in India. Dr. Vanita Arora has earned awards like Rising Star in Cardiology, Women Doctor Entrepreneur of Year 2018. Dr. Vanita Arora is a pioneer in implanting leadless pacemaker in India since 2016. We are happy to welcome you, ma'am. We would also extend our warm welcome to the moderators and the panelists for the session. The moderators, Dr. Rohan Gunavardena, Colombo, Dr. Ashutosh Kumar, Hyderabad, and the panelists, Dr. P. Mariappan Sedam, Dr. N. Padmanabhan, Erode, and Dr. B. Keshavamurthy, Tanjavur. Now over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. Good evening, everybody. At the onset, I would like to thank Dr. Lawrence for making me a part of such an esteemed gathering and asking me to speak on at this August platform. I must compliment him for another thing that he has made interventional electrophysiologists speak of antiarrhythmic drugs. So, but my job has been made really easy by Dr. Narasimhan for after his excellent talk. I am so awed by the description he has given of the PVCs, of the PACs, how to manage them, and he has made my job easy because he's given different scenarios and put the antiarrhythmics drugs together and told you how to use them and where to use them. So let's discuss the antiarrhythmic drugs in the present era. I will start with the basics of the physiology of the heart, whereby I lay the emphasis on the normal conduction pathway, where SA node generates the action potential. It delivers it to the atria as well as AV node. AV node gives it to the Purkinje fibers, and Purkinje fibers conduct it to the ventricle. And the other types of conductions that occur are in between the cells. That is, when one cell gets depolarized, the adjacent cell also gets depolarized. So action potential is seen in two ways in different kind of cells in the heart. The atria, the Purkinje, and the ventricles have an action potential which has 5 phases, while SA node, AV node have a 3-phase action potential. So this diagram we have seen since the MBBS time, and we are all aware of this diagram, which shows that phase 0 consists of the sodium influx in the cell. Phase 1 is the rapid efflux of the potassium, while the plateau phase 2 is the calcium influx into the cell. The phase 3 is the repolarization due to, again, the potassium efflux, and phase 4 is actually the resting membrane potential, which is most important. And it is the phase 0, the slope of phase 0, which is known as the conduction velocity, and it is determined by this. So once we have studied the phases of action potentials, so we have a classification which was given by Vaughan William long back, and this classification is followed till date, where he divided the antiarrhythmic drugs that were used at various phases of this action potential into 4 classes. Now, most of these antiarrhythmic drugs, please understand, most of these antiarrhythmic drugs are pro-arrhythmic. They promote arrhythmias, but their beneficial use is essential for us to control the arrhythmias in various scenarios. Now, in class 1 drugs, these are the sodium channel blockers, whereby they change the slope of phase 0 and can abolish the arrhythmias because of re-entry circuits. Class 2 drugs are beta blockers, which decrease the heart rate as well as the conduction velocity, and can indirectly also alter the potassium and calcium conductance. The class 3 drugs are the potassium channel blockers. In this category, we have drugs like the favorite drug of everybody, amiodarone and sotalol, which increases the action potential duration or the refractory period and delays the repolarization. While class 4 drugs are the calcium channel blockers, which slow the rate of rise of phase 4. So this is the oldest classification for all the antiarrhythmic drugs. These are the various drugs which are added. I will not go into the detail of each and every drug. My aim today here, as I discussed with Dr. Lawrence, is to discuss about a little bit about your favorite drug, which is amiodarone, and a little bit about the drugs which are now very readily available in Indian market. So we can use them for our patients. We are sometimes scared to use them, but I will try to make you feel more comfortable about the usage of these drugs. And in addition, in the end, I would like to add that there is another classification which has been introduced in 2018, which is adding these other drugs into more giving them more categorization and due importance as they require. So we will discuss about these other drugs also, and I will just briefly tell you about that classification because that has been introduced very recently. Now let's talk about the drugs available for use in our clinical practice. One important drug is from the class 1A, that is quinidine, which acts on the rapid inward sodium channel and to a lesser extent to the slow inward calcium channels. The most important part of the quinidine is that it suppresses the automaticity in the normal Purkinje fibers. The dosage which is given is around 300 to 600 milligram 4 times a day. And the most important role of quinidine, apart from other arrhythmias, is in the primary VF or ventricular tachycardias in patients of Brugada syndrome. Brugada is very frequently diagnosed nowadays in India also because initially we thought it is a disease which is not seen in India much, but we are more and more going into the details of the sudden cardiac death or episodes of sudden cardiac arrest in young people and recognizing that it is the Brugada syndrome or Brugada pattern which is causing that. So this drug can be used there. It has the side effect. The most important cardiac side effect is the torsades de pointes, that is, it causes prolongation of the QT and torsades because of that. And then it has adverse effects, which are the GI side effects, which make this drug a little intolerant for some people. The class 1B drugs, the most important drug which I'm going to discuss out of the class 1B is mexiletine, which is very readily available and underused drug in the present scenario. It shortens the phase 3 repolarization, thus decreasing the duration of action potential per se. The 1B drug is very effective in ischemic VT. This is a drug which inhibits the inward sodium current, reducing the phase 0 and results in the increase in ERP and APD ratio. The site of action is actually Purkinje fibers. Henceforth, it is very effectively works on the ischemic tissues. It shortens the refractory period and conduction times in the ischemic tissues, particularly in the Purkinje fibers, and it is also reduces the likelihood of re-entrant tachycardias. It has moderate potency, more action on the disease myocardium, and it has a use dependence. The safety wise, it does not prolong the QT. It has no major effect on the sinus node function and no hemodynamic effects, and it is safe in the depressed LV function. Hence, mexiletine forms as a very good drug to be used in the scenario of ischemic heart disease. The dosage of mexiletine that has been recommended is 150 to 300 milligram, 8 hourly or 12 hourly to be administered with the food or antacid is recommended. Why after MI? Well, in the ischemic myocardium with reduced membrane potential, voltage and time dependence recovery of sodium channel from inactivation is delayed. Hence, class 1B drugs, especially mexiletine, binds with the inactivated sodium channel and the binding is significantly increased. When we use mexiletine in the scenario of premature ventricular complexes in the post-MI or recent MI patients, the efficacy of this drug is very good. Even in long QT syndrome, especially because of the mutation of SCN5A gene, which codes the sodium channels, mexiletine has been seen to be very, very effective. as an add-on treatment in patients who have been given ICD and are receiving recurrent shocks or electrical storm. It works very nicely in combination with amiodarone as well as beta blockers in such scenarios for management of these patients. It is less effective in atrial arrhythmia because atrial repolarization is faster compared with the ventricles and is associated with rapid transition of the atrial sodium channel, which is activated in the resting state. Hence, it has a limited role in atrial arrhythmias. Coming to class 1C drugs, the drug which out of 1C group I want to discuss is actually flecainide. Which blocks the open sodium channels, and it is very slowly in unbinding. It is the role of flecainide is initially it was developed as a local anesthetic. It is a potent blocker of sodium, so shortens the action potential, and potent blocker of potassium, so prolongs the action potential. Net result is that there is no change in the action potential duration. The most important role of flecainide is in the patients who have no CAD, it is a normal functioning heart, and to prevent the recurrence of atrial fibrillation and termination of acute termination of atrial fibrillation. Flecainide has been shown to be very, very good drug. So this should be used as it is very safe and it a good drug to be used in such scenarios. Propofenone is another drug of the same class, which is a weak beta blocker. It's a weak beta blocker, but it has calcium channel blockage also. It is available in the name of Ridmonone and especially used in some spectrum of arrhythmias, ventricular as well as supraventricular arrhythmias, where flecainide can be used. It is available now in India very readily. Now, if we compare class 1 ABC drugs as regarding to the sodium channel and ERP, well, class 1 drugs have a moderate sodium channel blockade. They increase the effective refractory period. Class 1B have weak sodium channel blockage. They decrease the effective refractory period. And class 1C, they have very strong sodium channel blockage and they cause nothing on the effective refractory period. So this is the comparison of all these three drugs. And I wanted to specially discuss mexiletine and flecainide out of this group for your information, because both these drugs have been shown are available for various arrhythmias. The different scenarios that we have just discussed, they are available for the usage and you should use it. Coming to the class 2 drugs, these are my favorite. These are the beta blockers, and Dr. Narasimhan has very nicely described their usage in various kind of PVCs. Well, whether it is PVCs or PACs, beta blockers should be used. You all know the mechanism of action of beta blockers, and they diminish the phase 4 depolarization, thus suppressing the automaticity of the ectopic focus. They prolong the AV conduction. They have negative inotropic and chronotropic action, and they are the best drugs to be used, whether it is propranolol or metoprolol or atenolol. But most important drug which I want to discuss here is esmolol. This happens to be my favorite drug because it can be used IV. It can be used IV in a scenario where you have patients of ischemic cardiomyopathy, post-MI patient or post-CABG patient having VT strom. This drug, in addition to your good old amiodarone, acts as a very good treatment for such patients who have acute arrhythmias. And the esmolol has a very short half-life of 10 to 12 seconds. So you start the infusion initially by giving a bolus. You give 100 microgram per kg as a bolus and then start the infusion at 100 microgram per kg per minute, which is can be increased up to 300 microgram per kg per minute. The esmolol is manufactured in India, so it is available. Initially, this therapy was very expensive, but now it can be used, especially in this group where patient is either having VT strom or having ischemic VT. That area, this beta blocker acts like a wonderful drug. It is short acting, so in case patient develops hypotension, you stop the infusion, immediately the effects goes away. So that is another additional advantage of using this drug. Now, talking about class 3 drugs, Well, class 3 drugs, they prolong the phase 3 of repolarization without altering phase 0 upstroke or the resting membrane potential. They prolong both the duration of the action potential and effective refractory period. Hence, they prolong the QT as well as the PR interval. They are basically potent potassium channel blockers. So the most important drug in this group is the amiodarone. This is what Dr. Lawrence wanted me to start with, that amiodarone and beyond we should be discussing in this lecture. The mechanism of action of amiodarone you all know, because it has been the favorite drug on the pen of all the Indian cardiologists and physicians. It has a structure like thyroid. It works on all the possible receptors: sodium, calcium, potassium, alpha and beta receptors. It has class 1, 2, 3 and 4 properties of all the 4 class properties of the antiarrhythmic drugs. It has to be given in a very different way as other drugs. There is a deposition of amiodarone into the fatty tissues in the body, and so we have to load the patient with amiodarone. The T half-life is 60 days, so it has to, in case you want the effect of amiodarone to be worn off, you have to stop the drug and wait for at least 21 days for it to go out of the body. The doses recommended of amiodarone are how you have to load the patient is that you have to load the patient either orally or IV up to 1 gram per day. 1 gram per day dose can be given. The loading dose varies, but in the text it is around 10 grams is the loading dose of amiodarone. But in Indian patients, I've generally seen that looking into their height and weight, up to 5 grams is a good loading dose of amiodarone. You can actually see the effect on the ECG once the PR either starts to prolong or the rate gets controlled. You know that amiodarone effect has come. Then the patient requires is only the maintenance dose. This loading dose is to fill in the fat deposition, the drug to get deposited in the fat, and then it is only the maintenance dose that is required to be given. Amiodarone is used on almost every arrhythmia in our country, and it is a very favorite drug of everybody. But the data shows that patients with LV dysfunction, once this SCEDHEF trial, Dr. Narasimhan showed you the diagram where he clearly showed that ICD had beneficial effect over the amiodarone. In fact, as compared to placebo, amiodarone had a worse prognosis in this set of patients. But still we see patients on amiodarone, probably because we are so comfortable with this drug that we want to keep them on this medicine only. There are so many side effects of amiodarone, but these happen generally with the long-term usage of this drug, which is like a cardiac toxicity in form of prolonged QT. Initially, we used to think that the prolonged QT in amiodarone does not cause torsades, but this is no longer true. I have seen so many patients of prolonged QT syndrome with amiodarone causing torsades. Hence, we should not take the prolongation of the QT with amiodarone very lightly. There are pulmonary fibrosis can occur, hepatic dysfunction can occur, thyroid can get knocked off by amiodarone. So all these side effects actually make this drug very difficult to be used for the long term. Hence, we need more drugs to become readily available, which are getting available now in India. So you also need to get used to using these drugs more in the clinical scenarios. Sotalol is another class 3 drug, which is in form of 2 isomers, and it shows the non-selective beta blocking activity. It is particularly of use in patients who may be having a coronary artery disease, but can be used for the control of arrhythmias in such patients, whether it is ventricular arrhythmias, PVCs, or atrial fibrillation or flutter. It can be used. The only thing we have to make sure is that the QT is monitored. Now, generally it is recommended. Then once you are starting the patient on sotalol, you should admit the patient for a day, get the ECG done after every dose, so that you are able to monitor the QT interval prolongation. In case within 24 hours or within 3 doses of sotalol, like 40 milligram 3 times a day, the QT does not get prolonged, the patient is safe to go home and be good with the sotalol therapy. Okay, now coming to what are the other antiarrhythmics which are available? Well, we have a very favorite drug called adenosine, which is a naturally occurring nucleoside. It acts on the receptors at many locations like AV nodal tissue, vascular smooth muscle, and it suppresses the automaticity of the AV conduction and dilates the coronaries. In the reentrant tachycardias, adenosine has a very good role. It blocks that re-entry circuit and it terminates the tachycardia. The half-life of this drug is hardly 6 to 10 seconds. There are some side effects. Once you give adenosine, patient has adenosine. In case there is an underlying COPD, patient can go into bronchospasm. They can have a very severe chest pain. There can be facial flushing. So there can be some shortness of breath. So you have to take a prior history before giving adenosine to the patient. Now, when you have to give adenosine, 6 milligram is the lowest dose that you have to give. But it is very important for us to understand that once the patient is having tachycardia, how do we administer adenosine? We cannot give it in the very peripheral cannula, peripheral venous access. The venous access should be as close to the heart as possible. Central line, if the patient has a central line, you should go it through that. If the patient does not have central line, try to put in the cannula as close to the heart as possible, especially in the brachiocephalic vein. And then once you have this, you attach a three-way to the cannula, the access cannula. Have 2 syringes ready, one with 12 milligram of adenosine, which is undiluted, the other with saline. So you open the cannula towards adenosine, give the adenosine, shift the cannula, the 3-way cannula towards the flush, and then flush it out so that it reaches the heart in less than 6 seconds, which is the half-life of this medication. In case it gets washed off in the blood earlier to that, then adenosine will not reach the heart and you will think that it is not acting on the tachycardia, while it is the dose-related and the time-related effect of adenosine. Remember, if the 6 milligram fails, you have to give 12 milligram as the next dose. If 12 milligram fails, you have to give 18 milligram as the next dose. Never use the same dose again. It is no use of that. It will be the wastage of this nice medicine. We have already discussed these indications of adenosine. It is in for the termination of supraventricular tachycardias, and sometimes it terminates the ventricular tachycardias also, which are related to right ventricular outflow tract, or they are dependent on the adrenergic drive. The good old digoxin has its role in controlling of the ventricular rate in atrial fibrillation patients. And it doesn't have any other role in any of the supraventricular tachycardias or ventricular tachycardias. It does have a role in atrial fibrillation. There is a very recent trial of rapid AFib where digoxin has, as compared to beta blockers, has shown a better efficacy in patients for controlling atrial fibrillation rate and with the LV dysfunction. Well, magnesium per se is not an antiarrhythmic drug, but it is used in the acute management of torsades. Magnesium blocks the influx of calcium into the cells, whereby the early after depolarization is reduced. So magnesium has a role in patients with long QT who go into torsades. We have to replace the magnesium in this and correct the potassium also, because mostly it is hypocalcemia, hypomagnesemia with decreased potassium, which causes torsades to occur in patients with long QT syndrome. So correct the potassium, bring it above 4, and load magnesium also in form of 8 millimoles over 15 minutes and 72 millimoles over 24 hours till the serum magnesium levels become more than 2. Ranolazine is one of the recent drugs which has been shown to be having a potent antiarrhythmic activity, especially in patients with atrial fibrillation. It is used in patients who have chronic stable angina and cannot be revascularized. So, but in patients with atrial fibrillation and ischemia-induced ventricular arrhythmias, this drug has been shown to be very positive. Evabrad is another drug which has been used in patients with inappropriate sinus tachycardia and in patients who have LV dysfunction, and despite the usage of beta blocker, they do not have their heart rate below 70. So in addition to beta blockers, Evabrad can be added. It is a very promising drug. It works by blocking the HCN channel, causing the decrease in spontaneous pacemaker activity of the sinus node. Varnacalant is another IV antiarrhythmic drug which is used for acute termination of atrial fibrillation. It works by blocking the sodium channels and early activation of the potassium channels. So it has approximately 50% conversion rate from atrial fibrillation to sinus rhythm within 90 minutes of the starting of the initial infusion. Edgelin is another drug. It's an old drug which has been used basically during EP studies to challenge the His bundle, to see the underlying heart block in case the patient has it, and in patients of Brugada syndrome to see the right precordial ST elevation in such patients. So this was about the amiodarone and beyond drugs and other drugs which are the newer drugs. The modernized classification of the cardiac antiarrhythmics has been presented in circulation in 2018, whereby the latest drugs which we have discussed have been given their due credit and added as class 5, 6, and 7. So what I would add here is not going into detail of this new classification, because the Wonga-William classification is still retained with the basic framework, and we have to give it its due credit. And we should be using the commonly used drugs along with the newer drugs available in combination or per se alone for the betterment of the patients. Each patient is unique and requires the use of a specific drug depending upon the type and mechanism of arrhythmia. Thinking beyond amiodarone, probably newer drugs should be tried without inhibition. Thank you so much for your patient hearing. And thank you for having me
so
here.
much, ma'am.